Final standings out of Group A. We know the top two advance. It is going to be Palmeiras as well as Inter Miami, Porto, and El Ahly. Then go home eliminated with a sense of disappointment from the FIFA Club World Cup. All right, for more on this, we welcome into the show our good friend and colleague, Kasey Keller. Kasey, get your thoughts on this one in a moment, but we'll start in studio. I don't know how to feel about this game from an Inter Miami perspective. Like, great performance until the end where you give it away. And not only do you give away a win, but you give away a better matchup in the round of 16. Now it's PSG. Now it's going to be a lot tougher. How do you sum up the night for Messi and company?
It's crazy that we're thinking it's a bittersweet advancement for Inter Miami, because nobody thought Inter Miami would be in this position.
Yeah, you picked them to lose 3-1.
I picked them not even to get out of the group. I picked them to be humiliated. I thought Messi and friends would be humiliated in front of the world, that they would be the laughingstock of the tournament. And here they are undefeated. Here they are competing with the Brazilian giants. Here they are competing with the Portuguese giants. Here they are competing with the African giants. And they're the lone MLS team. Messi and friends keep defying the odds in ways that I thought they could never. Everything that was on display in the regular season that you said, these are the reasons why Inter Miami will struggle. Defensively, they don't have the legs. They don't have the discipline. Their coach is inexperienced. Their star players are nearing 40 years of age. They won't have it in the tank. This is the third game in 9 days. There's no chance they will do this. Oh, and by the way, they took him out of Miami to go play in Atlanta at one point. What's going on there? And yet, they are here. And they were 2-0 over Palmeiras. They were 2-0 over a Brazilian team with history, a giant that's proven well in their confederation, in CONMEBOL, in Libertadores, in whatever competition they're in, and they're beating them. And quite frankly, they should have beat them. So it's bittersweet because of where they were. And they were going to somehow get out of the way of PSG, somehow not have to face the European champion, and you get Botafogo, which, yes, is Libertadores champion, but a far cry from the team that won Libertadores. All those star players have long gone. A much better matchup, and it would have allowed you to keep dreaming of advancing in this tournament a little more than PSG. It's still, you're there. You're $20 million richer because of the advancement. You're $20 million richer because of how you've done here. But PSG's a tall ask. So it's bittersweet on that angle. But you look at this team. This is a team with a $5.9 million salary cap. MLS teams are handcuffed in this competition.
Messi makes a lot more than that.
It's one player, and he can make whatever you want. This is 11v11, and football is very unforgiving if you take one play off, if one player takes one play off, and they keep defying the odds. So I don't care if it's Messi or not. They weren't supposed to be in this position, so I'm amazed.
They weren't supposed to be in this tournament, were they?
No, wow.
If you really want to go there, no, it's tremendous achievement. I mean, obviously, 2-0 up. And look, there's a price to pay, right? If you have Suarez and Messi, there's a lot of good. One of the things that becomes hard to do, no, but is you 2-0 up, you figure you manage the game, you hit on the counter. You don't have that option with those two guys because they're just not going to have the legs for it, right?
Yeah.
So it allows the other team to go and play a certain way.
Why not take those guys off then?
They did. They took Suarez off.
Yeah, they left Messi on.
They did leave
They left Messi on.
It's
You
a
didn't
brave
need another
man.
goal.
And a hobbled Messi as well.
Yeah.
Brave man who takes Messi off.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on. Who's going to take Messi off?
Well, I mean, I think there's a general concern around his health, right? I mean, he didn't look 100%, even for his age. He didn't look great. You're up 2-0. I mean, I think there's something to be questioned there, especially when you give up two goals in the last 10 minutes of the game.
Who you putting on?
Anybody, somebody with legs.
I mean, they put
the
on.
goal is to defend.
They put on Fafa Picault, who had legs, and he's the reason they scored the second goal. There's no reason you should challenge there. You've got to be more composed. You don't need to dive in. He dives in, cross gets sent, and they end up scoring the 2-2. So I understand what you're saying, because logically you would say, well, if two players don't have the legs to counter, as Gab would say, because that's logic right there, is you sit, the other team has to commit numbers, you can counter, and probably finish off the game. They don't have that luxury. This happens.
Haven't we seen recently, you win a free kick, haven't we seen Messi score a free kick from a set? You don't need to run to do that.
But Gab, it was 2-0. You didn't need a third goal. I mean, the idea is to not concede 2 goals so that you don't need them on the field to dig you out of the hole at the end of the game, right?
And then you go 3 goals down, which they nearly did, or you go goal down, and then maybe Messi comes in. I'm not taking Messi.
No, but I'm with you, Gab. You need that ace. You need that ace up your sleeve in case something happens.
Kasey, you know what's interesting about this result for Inter Miami is usually when Inter Miami does anything, it's a Messi masterclass. That really wasn't the case tonight, was it?
No, he didn't have a lot to do in the match. He had his moments where he connected well and played little balls through, but there was only 2 or 3 opportunities that I remember where he kind of had an opportunity. He came in on his left foot the one time and hit a pretty calm shot to the goalkeeper's right. That was about the one time that I saw Messi maybe could have done better with. But, in the end, I thought there has to be a ton of positives for Inter Miami, and I think you all mentioned it very well, that nobody really expected this, that they have represented very well. I think what had happened is the experience of the players basically said, we can make this happen for a couple games, for 9 days. We'll give everything we have to try to do something special. And, to Gab's point, what did they win to get into this tournament? So they were basically having to kind of prove themselves, and I think they did that. Now, you also have to talk about Palmeiras and where their defense went 2 or 3 times in that match. There's going to be an inquisition to see what happened there. And yes, Inter Miami could have scored another one when Palmeiras' defense just disappeared. But in the end, the quality of the Brazilians showed at the end of the match. And I'm happy, though, for Inter Miami that they didn't concede in stoppage time, because they very easily could have. And so I think it's a great representation for MLS. We'll see kind of what happens, as you mentioned, in the next round, and how that affected the difference between PSG and Botafogo, I think is large. But I'm not going to take anything away from Inter Miami. I think it's a credit to what they've done and to show. Because, look, the Sounders did well. They did the best they could against a very difficult group, but Inter Miami has proven that they should have gotten through.
You know what? I commend both teams, because you were sitting here yesterday and even talking while we're watching the game, you thought, well, tie game, this works for both. This is a gentleman's pact here, nothing's going to happen. Yet you saw Palmeiras trying to finish the game off, trying to win, and you saw Messi and friends, you saw Inter Miami trying to do the same. I'm not for this works for us, and it's good to see that both teams weren't about that either.
Are you buying this turnaround from Inter Miami as something that'll spill over into the MLS regular season? Because they have not had a good regular season to date. They've been shipping goals. They're 6th in the Eastern Conference. This seems to have come out of nowhere. Do you think this is, kind of to Kasey's point, a team stepping up into the moment and they're going to drop back down when it gets to MLS, or is this an actual turning point for Mascherano and company? Because I think if they go out here in the group phase and if they humiliated like you kind of predicted, Mascherano might be on his way out.
He would have been on his way out.
This probably saves his job, right?
Well, I don't only think this saves his job. I think this changes Major League Soccer. I think this makes Don Garber, the ownership in Major League Soccer, reassess what could be actually done within Major League Soccer, loosen those purse strings. You had Sergio Busquets before the tournament started saying, we need help. You need to open up that wallet. You need to ease up on these rules and regulations, these stupid mechanisms that hamper Major League Soccer. You need to please allow us to compete. And here they are competing. So if I'm Don Garber, if I'm other owners around Major League Soccer, I'm thinking a little bit more money equals a little bit more quality, and we could showcase this league to the rest of the world. Look what Messi and friends just did for us right now. We're behind a paywall, nobody sees us, and now the world is seeing us. This is the time. So I think this is, forget his job, forget Mascherano, his job, the new contract for Busquets, whatever the case may be, Messi himself. This changes things for Major League Soccer, and it will continue to change things if they can keep going forward, if they can keep getting past these teams.
Messi and Inter Miami, obviously with plenty to celebrate, advancing in the Club World Cup. Also worth noting, it is Lionel Messi's birthday.
Oh.
Turning 39 years old today. If you're watching us live, we see some of his numbers. Of course, as we mentioned, though, a quiet game today. If there's a man of the match in this one, it's got to be Luis Suarez, right, Gab?
Yeah. I think,
goal and an assist.
We saw the drive that Suarez brings, and he looks like somebody out there. I feel like every game could be his last game.
Like physically, he's hanging on by a thread.
But he treats it. He's like, I'm not gonna leave anything out there, or I'm not gonna keep anything back, I should say. And I think that has an impact. And yeah, I think the rest of the team very obviously are aware that you have got the 2 old guys there. But when you see Suarez battling like that, I think it does. When we talk about leadership, I mean, you've been there. You've been inspired by teammates, right?
My knees were hurting just watching him. I have no idea how he's still doing this at this age. And this
We literally said that the first week he played in MLS last season.
And he scored 20-plus goals last season. He was close to 20-something assists as well. I look at Messi, who was clearly hobbled. He's got an injury in his leg, in his upper thigh, and you can say they're clearly hobbled. You can see Busquets, who clearly isn't as fresh as they would need to be.
Alba's still coming off the bench.
Alba's coming off the bench because he was injured, and you're saying, like, to your point about the leadership, look what they're doing.
And if I can say something, right? I don't think anybody thinks right now that, I mean, Messi has more money than Almighty God. Suarez is like bigger than the GDP of a mid-sized country. They're out here because they want to be.
Right.
They're out here because they want to be, and they want to make a difference, and they want to make every moment count. Because, you know, it's like sand through the hourglass, right? They know the clock is ticking. And I think it's inspirational. I think it's kind of neat. Like, you know, everybody wonders, you know, what do I do next, right? And they're going to say, I'm going to push it back as much as I can. And they're rewarded, not just here, but you know, with the win against Porto. And I don't know what you guys thought about. I thought they started on a low against Al Ahly. I thought Al Ahly created a lot of problems for him. And you had that bounce back in the second game, and then to go through.
They really kind of survived that. It could have been 3-0 at the half in that first game. And then we are talking about the humiliation and not getting out of the group and all that. Obviously, they hang on. Ustadi has a great first half. They get a draw there and end up going undefeated through the group. For that effort, they're going to get PSG now in the round of 16. Kasey, I suppose in football and soccer, every team has a puncher's chance. Because Inter Miami has Messi, do you give them anything beyond a puncher's chance in this matchup?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody would have anticipated that PSG would have beat Atletico Madrid in the first game 4-0. So, yeah, I mean, you understand you go into these things, and let's even, you know, look at the way that PSG scored the first goal today against the Sounders. At 0-0, he hits a shot that's going to go about 5 yards wide and caroms off his own man's back into the back of the net. So, I mean, if that doesn't go in, who knows what would have happened in that match. But yeah, I think there's a chance. I mean, I think you got to start looking at fatigue at this stage for Inter Miami and how that's going to play out in this next match against a PSG that has the ability to play more players, to be more dangerous at times. But yeah, when you can score off a free kick, when you can defend the way they defended today, at least for the first 75, 80 minutes, against a side that was pushing a lot of numbers forward, pressing at times. I thought Palmeiras at times was a little over elaborate in the final third at the beginning of the match, and we're trying to look for this perfect goal. But if you can kind of get PSG off their game, frustrate them a little bit, because I don't think PSG expected to lose to Botafogo. So after winning 4-0 against Atletico Madrid. So yeah, 100%. But clearly PSG are the favorites.